As I said to your brother, thank God this wasn't me again.
Okay.
Well, that's the end of the podcast. Thanks, folks.
Thanks so much.
My earphones.
Bye.
I can't hear.
That's a review of Scott Bryce's best work. Good night.
Oh, this
Microphone is
the space. Is this good, Miggs?
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
How
Well,
are you?
our I don't know. Maybe Scott. Well, since Scott's the actor among us, do you want to? Why don't you announce it? It's just welcome to Oh Brother, Not Another Podcast with, and then we'll say our own.
Welcome to Oh Brother, Not Another Podcast with
Trace Burroughs.
And me, Miggs Burroughs.
and
our
special guest.
Our special guest announcer today is Scott Bryce.
Scott Bryce.
With a
hey, don't make fun of announcers. My dad was an announcer and an actor as well.
Yeah, no, and your mom as well. No, I knew your mom better than your dad because we were on a committee together. Mom was a lovely person.
Thank you. She sure was. You know what put me through college? I watched him do it too. It was one take. He went into a booth, he put headphones on. He said, "Remember FDIC." I said, "Thanks, Ed." And we went home. And that was
the mortgage.
10,000 banks across the country.
Oh my! Yeah, that's.
And I thought I could do this.
Was that the beginning?
Well, no. I mean, I hated the business because I grew up in it, which is relatively normal, actually, if you're not a child actor. And I was not allowed to be an actor until I had done everybody else's job. So I had to do electrics and props and wardrobe and makeup and hair and set construction, all of it, before I was allowed to act. And that was part of the philosophy of, both my parents are well, my father wasn't, but my mom was multi-generational in show business. Her father was Whitey Main. He managed the Marx Brothers in Mae West and was a booking agent in vaudeville days. And my mother hired my father. That's kind of how they met. But there was an ethic not to do any kind of acting work and to do everybody else's work. And I didn't want to be involved with the business. It was what my parents did. Mm-hmm. And then came the time to tour Staples High School from Bedford Junior High. We had to do that little tour, and 30 of us walked through the 9 building, and we're like up on the stage, and I'm looking up at the flies, and everybody moved on without my knowing it. I'm alone on stage by myself, looking around, and a voice from the very, very far back of the theater, and as you know, it's huge. It's 1,100 seats, and I hear Al Pia's voice, and it says, and I'd never met him, and he says, "Feel like you're home?"
Oh, wow.
And I turn around to this unseeable voice of God, and I said, "Yes." He said, "Good, you're the lead in the next play. I'll send the script to your house."
Seriously, it was that?
And then I left, and it was Brick in the Rose. I played Tommy, and we won the state champion, and I won Best Actor.
Gee.
And then in my junior year of high school, I did the play The Ruling Class by Peter Barnes, a paranoid schizophrenic who thinks he's Jesus Christ, later to be turned into a brilliant film. And the show was a massive hit. Opening night, my parents come, and they were very somber backstage. And I thought something was up. And I looked at my dad. I said, "Was I okay?" And my dad said, "You were brilliant, son. We'll see you at home." And it was very up. And I go to the cast party, and I'm tormented because I think something's happened to one of my brothers. There's something horrible has gone wrong. So I left the cast party early. I walk into my parents' home where I'm living, and my mother's on the couch sobbing uncontrollably, and my father's trying to console her, and I'm convinced one of my brothers. And I walk in, I go, "What's going on? What's wrong?" And my mom looks up and she says, "We know you're an actor." And she was heartbroken. Even that was her business. I was like, "Why?" She says, "There's no way to protect you from the pain."
Oh, I thought it was happy tears that you joined the family.
She was horrified. And, and again, I was forbidden from acting until I was, in high school. And so to my wife, who's multi-generational in the business, I said, "We've got to protect our son from doing this. So let's tell him that he has a moral and ethical obligation to carry on the family lineage, because he would now be the 5th generation. And therefore it's a requirement that he know all of Shakespeare, right?" Well, so now he's an elite basketball player, has no interest in the business whatsoever. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, the reverse psychology.
Yes, exactly.
Very good. Well, I don't know, Trace, were you in the Players?
No,
you had Al Pia's, didn't you?
No, I had, I think, no, I don't know who I had. I don't remember. Maybe it was Pia. Yeah, because I wasn't in the Players. I had friends in the Players, and, but No,
But
didn't do
I
that.
was in it, but I wasn't an actor. I was doing lighting, and I was the only idiot that would get up on a
On the
ladder.
grid.
Yeah, get up.
Yeah.
They didn't. I don't think they even had a catwalk then. They just had this 90-foot ladder you had to crawl up to.
Well, they had a catwalk, but it would only support the weight of a cat.
Yeah, that's right.
When I was in 5th grade, we did a minstrel show
Oh
at
yeah.
Saugatuck School, and
This is
they
disturbing.
kids picketed the front. It was so not, politically incorrect, and so a bunch of kids who were real activists at the time, they're 6th graders, picketed the front of the school saying this is wrong. I played the interlocutor, which I guess is just like someone who said, like, introduce the next act or something.
Yikes. Yeah.
Yikes, yeah.
Well, Scott, if we use up all our free minutes on Zoom, if I listed all your credits here, but I'll just pop over a few people. I mean, there's Homeland, 30 Rock, Law and Order, which I want to talk about, Sex and the City, Murphy Brown. Now, you made a comment, well, maybe it was at Rachel's house, but you've been married, would you say, like,
Well, I'm trying to remember how many times I've been married on television, but I think it goes like this. So it was Meg Ryan on As the World Turns, and then I married Joe on The Facts of Life, and then I married on TV Dad Annabelle Gurwitch, and then I married somebody else on As the World Turns, Marie Wilson on As the World Turns. I married Corky Sherwood on Murphy Brown, and I was Will Forrest, so that made her Corky Sherwood Forrest. And then I almost married Lisa Darr on Popular, but the wedding was interrupted on the end of the second season show, so we never actually got married. And I think that's it. So I'm looking at like 6 weddings. When I was younger, when I was only like 4, I had all 4 wedding photographs in my apartment in New York City. And so when I would bring a girl over, they would like see these weird photos, and I'd be like, I know, and they all died in some strange spiritual accident.
Yeah.
Can I get you a drink? And but yeah, I want to put them all together. Luckily, in real life, I've only been married once. But yeah.
So your resume just says groom.
I guess I was like, in the 90s, I was like the groom guy, and I got typecast as. I fit in all the tuxedos at wardrobe, so it was just easy.
Yeah.
What was your favorite? I mean, well, Trace was on a soap opera briefly, I think.
I was on One Life to Live as an extra back in the 80s, late 80s.
Yeah.
And I played a policeman in a court scene. And I was with a woman who's my partner, and she was like saying, I didn't want the director saying, move here and walk there. And she didn't want to do that and was making a fuss. And I just wanted to be like in the background and just tell me what to do. And he threatened to kick me off the set. He stopped the whole thing. There were like 40 people and said, if I hear one more sound out of you, you're off.
To you?
To me, but there was no time to say it's her fault. He just heard noise. He's busy trying to coordinate the whole cast. And then, and so I couldn't. So that was that. I didn't want
to. Let's start with the premise. I don't want to do what the director tells me to do.
Yes, it was insane.
Fundamental breakdown here.
Yeah, it's crazy.
She's in the wrong place,
and she's just an extra too.
You're trying to make a living in show business. So you were in As World Turns for what, like a decade or?
Well, I did As the World Turns off and on. I mean, I was very, very fortunate. They let me come and go. And it allowed me to build a primetime career, which is incredibly important. I didn't know how difficult, there are no rules today. I mean, literally cross platforms, whatever, there's no rules. But back in the day, daytime television was a very, very specific thing, and primetime, very specific, and movies, very tough. And it was very hard to what was called crossover, incredibly difficult. And so when I got to primetime, how that happened and how I wound up on Facts of Life was when I left As the World Turns with my agents going, who knows what's going to happen? You got to know that. And I leave, and the show aired of my final episode. It turns out that all the girls on Facts of Life watched As the World Turns.
Oh.
And George Clooney had just left the show. That was Nancy, Joe, the character Joe's boyfriend. And so Nancy goes, bring me Scott Bryce. And the next thing I know, I'm on an airplane out to Los Angeles in a hotel suite at the Mondrian. I'm working on Facts of Life. And I didn't even know at the time what a huge leap that was, a huge gift that was for me. And then a similar thing happened when I got into my first big movie, which is Up Close and Personal with Robert Redford and Michelle Pfeiffer. And getting that, I was released from the film like 7 times. And finally, I get a phone call because John Abnett, the director, really wanted me in the movie. And the studio didn't want to, I was a television person, so they were trying to, it wasn't big enough. And finally, he has me fly out for the table read. I'm the only part that has yet to be cast. So I go out to the table read. Everybody there's got the job. And I put my stuff down on the table, and then Robert Redford comes in and puts his stuff down next to mine. And I realize, okay, that's obviously the wrong place. So I go grab my stuff and I move it, for a little further away from the king. And then Michelle Pfeiffer comes in and she sits down, and I notice that my stuff is now back next to Redford, between Michelle Pfeiffer and Redford. Well, this can't be the right place. So I go back to remove my things. When John Abnett's hands come down on my stuff, first to get down the table, he goes, "You sit where I tell you."
Ooh.
And I went, "Oh, wow. He's sitting me between Redford and Pfeiffer." So I sit down, we do the table read. And when it comes to my first scene with her, it's going extremely well. She and I connected very well. And I watched the head of the studio lean over to casting and whisper in their ear, "Who the hell is that?" And he said, "Television." And then I went, "Oh, that wasn't even my name."
Mr. Television.
On the first day of rehearsal for the movie, and this I will never forget, I will be grateful to Michelle Pfeiffer forever for this. So I get the call from the third AD, it says, "You go park at the Sony lot, and you're going to take the bus over. Like there's a commuter bus that takes all the people who work, and then you'll come through security, and we'll set you up with a honey wagon." Now your honey wagon, just so your viewers, listeners know, is there's tiny little dressing rooms in a row, and there's a men's room and a boys' room, and it's for like the waiter, and it's for those people that you get a dressing room. You're not in holding, you're not an extra, but you don't have a really huge part. And they didn't know who I was. And so I had to park at the lot, and then I take it over, and it took me like 45 minutes to get there. I finally get into rehearsal. We're sitting down. Rehearsal's about to go, and the rehearsal is John Abnett, the director, Robert Redford, Michelle Pfeiffer, and myself for 2 days. So I'm already in actor heaven. I'm like, it doesn't get bigger league than this, guys. And so there I am at the table. It's going pretty well. And then PAs bring in some coffee. And they put down coffee for Michelle, coffee for Redford, coffee for Abnett. They turn and start to go. And Michelle says, "Excuse me." And they turn, and there was an edge in her voice. You could hear it. And, "Yes, Michelle?" And she says, "I believe you forgot coffee for my co-star."
Ooh, nice.
And at which point Redford goes, "Scott, why don't you take mine?" And I said, "Oh, no, Bob, that's fine. I'm okay. It's all right." And now there's panic, and a PA comes running over. "How do you like your coffee?" "Just black, no sugar's fine. Thank you. Do you want anything to eat?" "No, really, just the coffee. Fine." And as they're going away, Michelle says, "Never do that again."
Ooh.
And we go back to work. And I say nothing. This is not right. This is not my time to speak, folks, right? So we go back into rehearsal. About an hour later, second AD, so now I'm past PAs, now the second AD is talking to me. And he's asking for my car keys and the parking ticket. While I'm in a scene with Michelle, and kind of an annoyance, I hand it off, I'm not even thinking, and he leaves. And we finish the day, and at 5 o'clock, Michelle walks. That's it. She's got her kids. She's going out. And she has this beautiful star trailer next to Redford's beautiful star trailer. And she's got this playpen out for her children, and the nanny's there. And at 5 o'clock, she's a mommy again. I highly respect her. So she leaves first, Redford, then Abnett. I'm signing out last with the first AD, who now looks at me and says, "Mr. Bryce, will you be requiring a limousine service, or will you be taking your own car?" And he points right outside the door, and there is my car parked in front of a star trailer with my name on it.
Oh, wow.
All because Michelle Pfeiffer said, "I think you forgot coffee for my co-star."
Isn't that
Nice.
So it was one of those moments where I realized the importance of that power that you can have, and how you can elevate somebody with just kindness.
Do you have to fight being starstruck in those situations? I mean, it's like, oh my God, I'm sitting between. I mean, you're in the profession, but you've been elevated.
It was pretty cool. I mean, I'm looking, and I will also tell you, first of all, Redford's an incredibly wonderful guy, and so welcoming and warm and down to earth, and not what you would expect. And frankly, I've the amount of people that I would call not nice in this business that I've encountered, stars, I could count on one hand. I mean, and it's usually some kind of weird mental thing, I think, with them. Most people are really incredibly nice.
Miggs suffers from that.
And I would also tell you that Michelle Pfeiffer, stepping out
Back
of
to your trailer.
6 o'clock in the morning, and she's got no makeup on, and her hair's not done. She's in a blue jeans and t-shirt. Every human being and most of the world's creatures stop and watch her walk to her trailer because it's astonishing. She's like a Rodin sculpture. She's more beautiful in person than she is on screen. And it's literally breathtaking. Like you just go, it's otherworldly. And one of the nicest people ever. We had a great time.
You wonder how they keep that. Yeah. I mean, they say, is it, that cliche, the camera loves somebody's, I mean, is there a magical thing between it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is. I mean, look, there's a great master class available. I'm spacing out on the actor's name, and I love him, Michael Caine. And Michael Caine does a wonderful master class, which anybody can rent. And he talks about the camera, and he's holding it in front of his class. He touches the camera, and he says, "This magnificent creature either loves you or it doesn't." And there's nothing you can do about it. And it's really true. I've seen amazing stage actors who cannot work the camera, just you can't do it. Then there's other stories like, and I won't use the name of who the actor is, but there was a stunt guy I know, a producer stuntman, Chaz Menendez, great friend. And he's working on a huge feature in New York. And he's looking at the monitor, and there's this movie star on the monitor. And then he looks off the monitor to the actual person sitting in the chair doing the scene. This is what we're looking at. And it's like a schlub. I'm looking at a schlub on screen, movie star, schlub, movie star. It's like, how is that possible?
Yeah.
I did a show years ago with Pamela Anderson. I was an FBI agent. Pam Anderson, Molly Culver, and this girl walked by. It was like the third episode I had done, and this girl walked by, and she had a cut on her head. And I asked if she was okay. And she said, yeah. And she looked like kind of like a New Jersey mall girl. You know what I mean? And I asked her if she needed anything. No, I'm fine. Thank you for your courtesy. And somebody else came out, and a nurse came out, and they said, oh, Pamela, are you all right? But wait a minute. That's Pam? And I realized what she becomes on camera is something huge and otherworldly, and yet she knows it. She was totally aware of it. It was this weird kind of Hollywood version of kabuki theater that suddenly it becomes something else, And there are actors that have that, where my dad explained that when he was in The Wrong Man with Hank Fonda, a Hitchcock movie. And this is a great television story. My father at the time was doing a show called Tom Corbett's Space Cadet, where he played it's a science fiction show. He played Captain Strong. He was also doing a soap opera at the time. So limousines are arriving, and Hank Fonda gets out, and there's nothing. And then, Hitchcock gets out, there's nothing. And my dad pulls up in his Volkswagen. It took 14 cops to get him inside the church where they were shooting for the court. And so this message comes down from Hitchcock, who watched the whole thing, goes, who the hell are you? And the answer again back then was television. And my dad's part was like massacred. So you see his arm and the side of his face come into the movie. That's it. All of it was cut out because movies were threatened by television at that time, even though now all they do is make old television shows.
Yeah.
But he talked about Fonda, and he watched this thing where he thought it was a rehearsal because Fonda was doing he thought nothing. I mean, he felt like he was just reading the words with nothing. And then Hitchcock goes, brilliant, print. And they were moving on. My dad was like, that was nothing. And then he saw the movie. It was brilliant. And it was like this incredible performance by Hank Fonda. And it was the moment that my father realized what less is more means, and how the reduced performance to the camera is so difficult for stage actors. We're used to hitting the back, the last row of the balcony. And when the lens focal point is inches from your face, it's a very intimate thing. And either you're going to have it or you're not. You get that close to somebody at a bar, you're not necessarily asking for the phone number.
Today you'd be asking to go in a hospital.
Yeah. Have you been tested?
Yeah. Speaking of which, briefly, how are actors? How have you and or friends adapted to this? Are there what's the new model for entertainment for you?
We don't know yet. I mean, let's start with this, that I really believe this too shall pass.
Yeah.
I really believe that, and I've looked, the Spanish flu came and it was devastating to the world, far worse than this. And it went away. It came in spring, came back in the winter. It was horrible. And we haven't had it since. So we've been here before. These pandemics do happen. This will pass. I hope it changes us in a core way that we're aware of our environment, of our world,
Sure, yeah.
of our families, of our stuff. We've been put in timeout, and may good things come out of that. That said, everything in production is obviously put off. Now, Chris Noth and a few other friends of mine, Tamara Tooney, who's like my sister to me, literally, we were that close. And we were laughing about 2 years ago at a bar talking about how there's now these audition on tape things. So you don't have to come in, just audition on tape and submit it. And I was laughing, thinking, first of all, that's the end of casting directors. They don't know it yet, but the producer will just go, send me your tape, and I'll have my assistant cull through it, And then we laughed and we said, actually what's coming is, because it'll be way cheaper, we're just going to send you a green screen behind you to all the actors that are in, and you just do your lines. And we'll cut it all together later. We'll turn it into a movie. And we joked about it. We were thinking about making a little TV show, like a 15-minute show, based on self-tape at home. Now it doesn't, that was a joke. And now it seems like, we'll see.
Possible.
It's possible.
Sure, if everyone was equipped with a screen and everything.
Yeah, but the theaters, the theaters were closed in 1918 and 19 as well. And it looked horrible. And people wearing masks in the city of New York, and 650,000 dead in Manhattan alone.
Nice.
And the population of Manhattan was way, way, way less. Somewhere like 50 to 70 million worldwide. Well, 2 years later starts the Roaring 20s.
Yeah.
And this incredible economic surge and sexual liberation that had not been seen before, which may have come from inability to touch each other. Pent up stuff. I don't know. Yeah. But I feel like it will pass. I hope that we learn lessons from it that I believe we're supposed to be learning.
Yeah, no, it's Trace, did you have a...
No.
Oh, okay, I thought you looked at your...
I was just curious, did you study acting in college? Did you do that? Or?
Yeah. After Staples Players, which I got to tell you, Al Pia is a remarkable teacher. And if you look up the list of Staples Players alumni, it actually is jaw-dropping. I mean, going back even before Al Pia, it's Christopher Lloyd. It's like it was.
Right, yeah.
It goes on and on and on. And then I went to Juilliard, which I left before I graduated, which is not unusual. I left of my own choice. Half the classes told to leave by Christmas. It's like really brutal. And so I did a lot of training there. And then I did training where you're supposed to do it, which is the regional theaters. And unfortunately, the regional theaters are really struggling now. But that used to be where I would work with people that were better than me. I learn the most when I'm working with people that are skilled at it and are better than me, and then challenge me.
Well, Trace and I both apprenticed at the Playhouse in different times. And I went back further, but in the 60s. But the regional, you'd get movie stars and Broadway stars in the plays at the Playhouse. These plays that would move around the country, and they were great to watch. But
you don't have as many of the big stars that go to play, do that anymore. Like back then, all the major film stars would do that kind of thing.
Yes, and now they feel like it would be beneath them, which is too bad, because that's too bad what's happened to the theater. The theater has been, there's two sets of theater now too. I mean, there's the giant spectacle, as there is in Hollywood. If you look what's happening in movies, Hollywood is doing the blockbuster and insane. Everybody's in a giant blue room, and people are saying, the dinosaur's bigger." Everybody's trying to make it up, and then there are these small little intimate films, and those are the ones that seem to take home Best Actor Oscars, Best Act.
Yeah.
What's one of your favorite films?
Like of all time?
Yeah, or a top 5 or whatever.
Lawrence of Arabia. The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Which frankly has got the most terrifying tornado ever built.
Isn't that amazing? And it was made out of like
A stocking, was it?
It's a 35-foot piece of fabric cut into a long triangle, spun up. It's like, millions are being spent now. And that was way, way better. There are so many films. An Affair to Remember. My Favorite Year. There's so many. There are so many films that it's hard for me to say what's my favorite, because that it changes so often. I think I look at movies as I get older. I see the story in a different way. I can see a play again a second time as an older human, and it reflects to me differently. It has different messages for me. There's something so alive about theater versus film. Film is an extraordinary medium. It can tell amazing stories in this incredible breadth. But to have the intimacy of the human being in front of you, who is the character, who is going through it, and you're watching it in real time. And there's a moment, as my father explained it to me, there's a moment when the audience becomes a character. And you can actually hear it happen. And I learned that you can hear it. So if the play is good, and the better the play, the earlier it happens. And something like, Raising the Sun, maybe it's like 5 minutes in, where all of a sudden you realize that all these people who come from different lives, they're different ages, they're different genders, they're different politics, different beliefs, and yet all of them just chuckled at the same moment. All of them just wept at the same moment. All of them just had this universal human moment of connection. And that's the gift, I believe, of storytelling. Humans are storytellers. We always have it. The guy who could tell the story about the hunt the best at the fire while we're
the caveman drawings.
That was the movie star of his day. Religion and churches became theatrical events, and now we've got this. I think it's a human contact that we need to see each other's stories and to see if where's the human connection. And the three of us, we have completely different lives, and yet here we are. There's a deep connection that we have, and we need to celebrate that and to find that. And I hope that in this separation with COVID-19 that we hunger for that enough. And I don't mean like false contact. I mean real connection. It's not about I want something from you. It's about how are you?
I even noticed, this is a good way to end because we're out of time, but I even noticed on CNN, the reporters, they're really, a lot of them are, broadcasting from their own homes, but their conversations are much more personal.
Yes.
The whole polish of the anchor has sort of been dissolved, and they're just people trying to connect themselves.
Well, no one is selling anything. We're all reporting, and none of us are in power talking down, because we've all, as a race, the human species, have been humbled by something we cannot see, and that's a good thing to remember. That there are things way more powerful than us, or election days, or your 401k, or how high the stock market is. My wife I can hear singing right now. My son is healthy. I've eaten today. There's some basic stuff that I think we can just be gratitude and humility. I would love to see come of this.
Great, perfect. Well, we have to say bye because Zoom's about. Thanks so much, Scott Bryce.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Great to talk to you.
Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.